Yaoi fans are made up of majority women. I don't think that's a very hotly debated take. Men make up only like 20% of the community, a minority when it comes to yaoi. So much so, I've heard horror stories of times men were gatekept from the yaoi community. It got so bad to the point men had to split off to their own branch of BL called Bara. The BL community itself being made up of mostly straight women and the minority gay men. Non-straight women and non-gay men being an even further super minority to even be considered. BL thus became split into two: yaoi, made by straight women for straight women, and bara, made by gay men for gay men. There are some skeletons in the closet of the BL slash yaoi community. However, why do I bring that up as a content creator focused around Yuri? Well, that's to bring the comparison towards Yuri now and ask if that same dynamic is mirrored for the Yuri community. The short answer, no, and the long answer, it's why we're here today in this video to discuss the demographic of Yuri fans. To start, the research for this is a difficult process, far larger than I can manage with my small size, so I'll be instead just gathering the knowledge and works others have done and spotlight the findings they found, using that to give an informed view to the audience of today. To do that, I'll be looking over three sources and tried to answer that question of a Yuri fan demographic. First will be Reddit, second will be a university paper from 2011, and third from a WordPress article from 2017. To start with, Reddit. This is the easiest and simplest answer to look up, and that's just to Google the question and add Reddit at the end afterwards. This gives two promising results. First is asking the female to male ratio on the Yuri memes subreddit. You can see here that even with a bias for men, since a majority of the user base for Reddit is men, the female to male ratio is still nearly 50-50. This is a very stark contrast to the likely 80% majority female to men ratio of the BL community. Here's another one. This one's smaller in scale, but also tells us the sexual orientation of the fans. We can see here it's now majority women, but still nearly 50-50 between female to male ratio. This is further informed with the sexual orientation that the majority of the females are lesbians, while the majority of the males are straight. If you recall earlier when I said that for the BL community, straight women make up the majority while gay men make up the minority, we can see how the Yuri community from just these Reddit posts mirror the yaoi community in terms of sexual orientation, but not in terms of gender demographic, as the Yuri community is far more equal in the distribution. That's just a single source from Reddit, however. Let's see if this view holds up with the next source, a university study. In this 2011 study, Verena Massar, a survey was conducted to find out the gender and sexual orientation demographic of Japanese Yuri fans. Of those that responded, females accounted for 52% of the population, while males accounted for 46% of the population. You can see again quite clearly another nearly 50-50 split between the demographics. Unlike the Reddit poly I showed, this is from a Japanese audience while my Reddit one was from an English audience. This shows even between cultures, the split in audience is the same. If we go to the sexual orientation part, we can see that, like the Reddit post, even the Japanese audience, a majority of the women that read Yuri are non-heterosexual, while the majority of men that read Yuri are heterosexual, matching the statistics we had for the Reddit post. Lastly, to make extra sure that the two sources I brought are verifiable, the most recent survey for demographics of Yuri fans was done in 2017 by Ziria. In this survey, in their gender and sexuality section, out of the 695 respondents, 328 were women, 308 were men, and 59 were non-binary or listed other for another reason. This again aligns with the previous findings that showed a consistent pattern of being split around 50-50 for the gender demographic. And as for the sexuality, it follows closely to the Reddit post I showed before, having a majority non-heterosexual women of 96%, while men that are heterosexual make up 76%. These two findings closely support the others' finding up until now, and I think we can make a conclusion based off of these. This post here neatly summarizes the previous two findings and will serve as a refresher of the knowledge for you to see again. I hope it's clear by now that while Yuri mirrors the sexual orientations of Yaoi demographic, with how straight women and gay men make up the BL community while lesbian women and straight men make up the Yuri community, I also hope that it clears up that unlike Yaoi, which is a predominantly their straight women fan base, Yuri shares an equal distribution between men and women, being nearly 50-50 for each side. This means both sides have an equal voice when consuming and wanting Yuri. One statistic that I didn't go over was the creators of Yuri though. This post helps highlight it, but the creators of Yuri are also mostly female. So that is a shared aspect with the BL community that isn't mirrored from them, as men are not the majority content creator of Yaoi or Yuri. Last thing I want to point out is the discrepancy between the sexual orientations of the Japanese audience versus the English audience. Mainly, that there was a lower count of non-heterosexual women majority compared to the English counterpart. My best conjecture is that since Japan is more conservative with their views, a lot of the women don't even think of their sexuality like that, or are less open to come out or view their own sexuality through a more critical lens, which I think leads to less of them identifying as lesbians, but not by too much in the end, since it's still majority non-heterosexual. Last thing I want to try to touch on is the why. Why is Yuri split evenly 50-50 while Yaoi is so uneven with a 80-20 split? This is mostly just an educated guess from here, but in my opinion, Yuri is split evenly because it doesn't fetishize lesbian romance. This lets lesbian women feel and see and read quality stories while not gatekeeping in the community to feel welcoming to straight men and let them enjoy it too. It's why in one of my previous videos going over himijoshi, I forgot to also mention himidanchis for princess boy. But both terms are used for the women and men of Yuri because we're proud of them and to be one. It's a welcoming community. Not to say there's no bad side to the Yuri community, there are some for everything, but as a whole the Yuri community doesn't discriminate that much. The Yao community, on the other hand, I'm not throwing shade because I find it fun, but there's a lot of skeletons in the closet with that community. I don't have to be an outsider and give that perspective to make it obvious. However, I'm not here to trash it. Rather, I'm actually here to make a conjecture in favor of yaoi a bit. That's because if you watched one of my recent previous videos, I go over which was more popular, yaoi or yuri, which the answer was yaoi, and by like a 5-to-1 ratio, there's generally like 5 times the amount of yaoi as there is yuri. Now, I want to try a dot experiment. Imagine there's like 5 times as much yaoi fans as there are yuri fans from that statistics. If we split the demographics I've shown in this video, we can get, for example, if there's 200 Yuri fans, there would be 100 women and 100 men Yuri fans. That would mean there there would be 5 times as much yaoi fans though. So 1,000 yaoi fans. And their split would be like 800 women and 200 men yaoi fans. We can see here in this very simple dot experiment that women and while men are a very small minority compared to women in the BL community, they are about equal to the amount of total Yuri fans. The men of the yaoi community are small compared to their counterpart, but have a lot of saying power and quantity as a whole when compared to another community like the Yuri community. So if someone were to, for example, create a bara manga targeting men, it's as good as if a Yuri author created a normal Yuri manga targeting the entire Yuri fandom. The audience size is just that massive for yaoi. So don't count out the power that the men have in BL communities. They're a force to be heard. That's just my 2 cents though. As an outsider to the yaoi community, hope it wasn't too unhinged of a hot take, and hope you'd subscribe if you got this far and enjoy my rants. Otherwise, see you next week.